sabbatical, so everything stops. Not just yet, everybody, not just yet. But no, I'm glad to see you all who are here. I'm sure more people will tune in and more people will fill in, but happy Tuesday. How's everybody feeling? Feeling good? Feeling good? Well, good. I feel good myself. I'm glad the rain stopped. I'm glad the weather is getting warm. It was playing with us all through May. It was cold. Now we finally in it. But wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Everybody's doing well. Everybody had a good day. Everybody's feeling good, looking good. Here we go. You doing good, Miss Betty? I like your jacket.
Thrift shop.
Thrift shop? Can it fit me? Okay, probably not. Well, once again, welcome to TNT. Glad everybody's here. We're just going to open up with a quick word of prayer before we get into it. Gracious God, we are here. Just once again, grateful and thankful for this moment. Grateful to be here. Grateful just to have another day here, God. Grateful to you for just continuing to protect us, God, to watch over us, to encourage us, to love on us, God, just to do what you got to do to get the best out of us. So we ask that you be present during this time, God, so that we may all learn a little more about you, grow closer to you, God, so that we may just continue to follow the path that you have placed in front of us. That's in your name we pray. And we say amen, amen, and amen. So, Sunday, you got told to tell people, don't sleep on me. And the text was coming from 1 Timothy 4:12. And don't let anyone put you down because you're young. Teach believers with your life by word, by demeanor, by love, by faith, and by integrity. And I really just wanted throughout the sermon for, people just to understand and, really recognize that, that the call to live out, this was a call to live out your faith boldly, regardless of age, background, demographic, wherever you are, just live your call out boldly. Really reflect on how your life can be like, a lesson plan, a sermon, example to others, and really commit to using your words, your love, your faith, and your integrity as just a witness to God's power. And just really emphasize those things. Some of those things can just go over our head some days. How we use our words can go over our head some days. How we, we like to say we live, love, and serve, but, we don't be loving every day. And how that can, go over our heads sometimes. You never know who's watching you. You never know who you can affect when you seriously are living out these things and taking these things seriously each and every day. And once again, it really doesn't matter where you are in life. As I was, it was Youth Sunday, so kind of geared towards the youth. But these things can be applied wherever you are in life. You're never too old to get overlooked. You're never too old to be an afterthought. So wherever you are in life, I thought this was a good message for you. So quick question, since we have a smaller group. Who in here has been underestimated before? I think everybody. Anybody want to share how it made you feel? How it made you feel when you got underestimated? How did it make you feel? Vindicated. Okay. Okay, you don't care for other people. Okay, that's a good way. Everybody ain't there yet. That's a good way. With age, I'm sure that becomes more easier. You underestimate me. That's what you're doing. Okay, I like that. You're at the point where what they think doesn't affect you. What they think doesn't really faze you at all. Okay. Anybody on the opposite of that spectrum? Where it might have made you feel a type of way? Anybody? Don't be shy now. Empowered. Okay. Empowered. I like that. They tell you can't do it. Yeah, you can. Yeah. They tell you can't do it, and you're going to figure out a way to do it. So you felt empowered. Okay. So you responded by doing what they said you couldn't do. Okay. That's good. That's good. Anybody else want to share? Have you ever been underestimated? How did it make you feel?
At times, it can make you feel undefeated.
Undefeated? Defeated. It can make you feel defeated. Okay. You can feel defeated when people underestimate you. And how it hurts a little more when, like I said in the sermon, it's one thing when people who don't know you, don't know your ability, don't know your background, don't know what you've done, underestimate you. That's one thing. But then we all have had instances where people we know, people we care about, people we trust may overlook us and underestimate us, and that's a different type of hurt, a different type of pain. But it's reality that everybody has had to deal with at some point. In those instances, if it's somebody close, it's more shocking. You may feel empowered, you may feel validated, but it's still shocking at first when you get this people underestimating you, who know you. It's just like if you know me, why aren't you thinking me in my best light? Even if you thought I couldn't do it, why wouldn't you give me the push that I might need to really get over it? So that's just some things, just to think about. Thank y'all for sharing, because that's just the reality of, life. People are going to underestimate you. People are going to overlook you. People are going to doubt you. That just comes with, life. But it's how you can respond to those things and how you can prepare yourself for those things to really set yourself up for success as you move forward. Once again, 1 Timothy 4:12, don't let anyone put you down because you're young. Teach believers with your life, by your word, by demeanor, by love, by faith, and by integrity. So here we have Paul, who's writing to Timothy. Timothy is just a young pastor starting at the time, who Paul considers somewhat of a spiritual son. And kind of like many of us today, Timothy was facing doubt and resistance due to his age, due to his youth, due to his inexperience, and due to his demeanor. So Paul here isn't just writing to give him encouragement. Paul is actually equipping Timothy to lead in spite of cultural and just normal pushback that he is going to receive because of his age, because of his inexperience, because of his youth. In the early church days, credibility often came with age. Credibility often came with status. Timothy had neither. He was young and he didn't have no status. So when you have either, people ain't really think you know what you're talking about. And that could be same, it could be held true for today. We often think, people who are newer to jobs, they try to give you advice. You ain't been here long enough to tell me about this. And that's real. We say that all the time. You new here. You just got here. Just give it a year or two. You know what's going on. How often, have you or you've seen other people just miss out on a good blessing because you thought, or they thought, someone was too young or too inexperienced to give them advice on a situation. We see those things all the time. And this is kind of, what it is. Even, with me, people, you're very young to be a pastor. I'm like, yeah, it's happened ever since I started. I got that, especially when I come around some of my peers who really may not know me, or friends of friends who, oh, you're really a pastor? That's, what do you talk about? They think you ain't got nothing to say, think you ain't got nothing to talk about. But, it's not all of that. Just because you're young doesn't mean you don't have anything to talk about. Just because you're inexperienced doesn't mean you don't have anything to talk about. Just because you are experienced doesn't mean you have something to talk about. You could be old and not wise, that comes there too. We see that all the time. But once again, in this day, all this credibility came with age and status. And once again, Timothy has neither, but Paul reminds him that spiritual maturity isn't measured by age, it's measured by example. What are you doing? Is what you're doing matching what you're talking about? We have a whole lot of people who can talk real good. Even today, we have a whole lot of people who can talk real good. We have a whole lot of people with status who know how to say something but can't back it up. We got someone in power right now who's got a big status. He's saying a lot, saying what he thinks certain people want to hear. And although certain people are realizing he ain't backing up everything he's saying. So, just because you got status doesn't make you, just automatically qualified to be talking how you talk. Just because you have age doesn't make you automatically qualified. Because once again, these things just apply all through your life. Once people are going to underestimate you all through your life. People are going to doubt you all through your life. But it's how you respond to those things and how you show up and how you really shut them up and give them examples of why they shouldn't have doubted you in the first place. Why they shouldn't have thought about you in the first place. And that's how you open people's eyes and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't just assume something just because of where people are. You know, I'm not going to walk in and just assume you don't know anything just because you're new. I'm not going to walk in and assume you do know everything just because you're new. I'm going to wait and watch what they do before I make a judgment. I'm going to see what they do before I make a judgment. So he says, don't let anyone put you down because you're young. You know, once again, it's not about age, it's about perception. You can be young in years, young in faith, or young in a position and still be qualified. If God calls you, you are qualified. You're qualified. Just because you're not up in years or you are up in years doesn't mean you're not qualified. You know, Paul's statement flips the cultural norms. Instead of demanding respect by force, you earn it by how you live. You earn that respect by how you live. You put that example out there by how you live, what you do, your work ethic, what you're trying to show. Once again, does your actions match your words? Once again, just not strictly about age. This can go with you all the way through life, no matter what stage you're in. So don't let anybody put you down. Teach believers with your life. You know, this is, one of the central themes of this, scripture, or this particular verse. You know, your life is your example. Your life is your curriculum. You're going to teach people with your life. The word they're using here in the Greek implies, you're being an example, or you're setting a pattern. You're showing people that your life means something. Your life means what you're saying. And you're not just talking, but you're living your words out with your actions. So teach believers with your life by word, by demeanor, by love, by faith, and by integrities. And really, these 5 areas can outline, what our job is, as we follow the carpenter. As you speak your words should be wise, filled with truth and love, respect and grace. Your demeanor, how you carry yourself under pressure and peace in both situations. Are you carrying yourself differently, or are you carrying yourself as if you know that God is with you? Are you carrying yourself with the confidence that your life is an example of what you live? Are you loving the right way? Are you loving in compassion? Are you showing forgiveness? Are you serving those who need it? Are you just talking about love and not actually showing it when it comes down to showing what love really means? Faith. Are you just talking about your faith? It's not just a belief. It's just walking boldly in God's promise. Even if you can't see the promise, it's walking boldly in something that you know is coming because you trust and have faith in how God moves in your life. Once again, it's not just talking the talk, but it's walking the walk as well. And then we talk about integrity, living with character, even when no one is looking, even when no one sees you. Are you the same person when the lights are on and then when the lights go off? Are you still that person? It's not just for performance. You're not doing these things for performance, but because you love and honor God's call on your life. Because we know a whole lot of people who can come in church on Sunday and perform. And then as soon as Monday hit, they're a different person. Not even Monday, as soon as they walk out of church, they follow Jesus for the 2 hours they in church. And then once that's over, they go about their lives, really just doing whatever they feel is necessary just to make themselves feel better. But you come in church and you're just putting on a show, putting on a performance. So are you living this? Are you living with that character when no one sees? Are you doing those things? You think about these 5 traits that he lays out. Word, demeanor, love, faith, and integrity. It's like a syllabus for your life. Each one teaches lessons about how you should move, how you should follow the carpenter. How you should be an example for those around you who, once again, you don't know who's watching you. You don't know how many people you interact with, who you're rubbing off on, who's looking at you to see how you act in certain situations, who's just taking from you. You just never know. So you should always be thinking about these things, how your words are, how your demeanor is, how are you loving, how is your faith shown in an example, and what does your integrity look like as you move through life. But any questions so far? Any questions? Don't be afraid to talk to me today. Don't be. Yes.
I've always found that young people quite often have a whole lot to say. And
Young people have a whole lot to say.
no, I just said that quite often young people have a lot to say. So I like being surrounded by all ages and all types of people. And not just view myself as a senior because when I was young and most of the people around me didn't like me because I didn't believe that they earned my respect just because they were old. And so I learned a long time ago to trust in me by being somewhat of a hermit. And I've become more outwardly as a friendly person as I've gotten older. But I don't really, I honor myself for being able to get through all of that hard stuff.
Yeah.
And also being able to prove people wrong so often when they doubted me. So, that's what I wanted to say. Just because I've had 5-year-olds say something really powerful to me. Just because they were speaking out of what they knew. And what they knew internally. So, I just wanted to say that. I honor young people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, because there's wisdom in all ages. Just because you're old, you don't know it all, and just because old don't mean you garner that respect. Especially, people just assume that once you reach a certain age or status, that you just all this stuff is supposed to happen to you. But if you're not, living an example of what it means to be a good person, a follower of the carpenter, what are you trying to earn? If your life is not an example that someone could look to and be like, oh, this is a person that I would want to be like, potentially. If you're talking about young people, how are you going to connect yourself to young people? They're not just going to come to you. They're just not going to, understand you. You don't understand them. So what are you doing, to just kind of, tighten the gap between understanding between the two generations? So yeah, thank you. That's really important. You got to honor young people. Young people got to honor the older people, and we got to come together to get a better understanding of just life in general. Because once again, just because you're older doesn't mean you know it all. Just because older doesn't mean you have all the experience. There's a lot of things that we can get from that intergenerational conversations, and that's something that we should just be pushing a little bit more in general, because especially I feel like after COVID, there's just such a gap sometimes between the young and the old. Just a gap in general that's just widening as time moves forward, as technology grows, as things become just so different. Even for my generation and the generation coming up now, there's just such a huge difference between what's going on in their lives and what was going on in my life when I was coming up. So you got to be able to talk to each other. You got to be able to give that respect to each other. But yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Yeah.
I consider myself as being mature.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of nephews and nieces that basically I actually took care of at a younger age. So I consider myself to be mature, but a lot of times I was afraid to talk because someone older than me always would shut me down because I was young. And because of that, when I got older, then I was afraid to say anything because I didn't think I would make sense. And with that being said, sometimes we have to listen to the younger ones because shine. And so if you have a young person in your presence and they have something to say, I think we should take the time to listen to them, to hear what they have to say.
And just hitting on something you said, I think I hit on it during the sermon. Like, you gotta watch your words, watch how you speak to people. Because think about that. You as a young person felt you had something to say, and somebody hushed you up, and because of that, you just didn't even know how to move as you move forward. There's an example, I forget what the book is from, but it's an example of a young, she's a child, but she's singing loud. She has a beautiful voice, and she's singing loud in the house. Her mother has a very rough day. Her mother comes in the house and is just annoyed. We've all been there before, or something just annoys you. And because she's annoyed, not necessarily because of the girl, but because of whatever happened during her day, the girl is singing, she gets on nerves now, she tells the girl, "Shut up, you sound terrible." And now, until that little girl reaches adulthood, she thinks she cannot sing because of some words her mother told her when she was little. And that's why I say you got to watch your words. Your words have power, even if you don't realize it. So you got to get used to speaking good, not speak good to yourself. If you can't speak good to yourself, you can't expect to speak good to other people. Speak good to yourself, and then practice speaking good to other people. Watch what you say to yourself. Don't just go about. Even when you make a mistake, give yourself grace as you talk to yourself. We like to beat ourselves up a lot. And then you say things a lot. You say, "I can't do this. I keep myself." You'll start to believe it, soon enough. And then, you might have cut off something that, God wanted you to use. But because you've told yourself you can't do it, or you can't use it, or you can't, you actually start believing it. And now you shut off something that, you get older, like, why didn't I do this? What was what was holding me back? Oh, myself and my own words. So yeah, let's get used to watching our words and watching how we talk. And, like we say, life and death is in the power of the tongue, and really take that seriously. We don't take that seriously enough with how we speak and how we talk, and how we just use words, because there is power in words. My mother, I'm sure she'll tell us, she's gonna get mad I told the story. I'm sure she's gonna use it, but she saw something online and she did an experiment. I'm gonna mess it up, but she had like 3 jars. And she put some white rice and water in the jars. Into one jar, she just spoke words of affirmation over the jar. To the next jar, she spoke negative towards that jar. And the third jar, she just left by itself. And I want to say, after a month, the jar that she spoke affirmations to, water was clear. Water was clear. Water looked good. I wouldn't go and drink it, but you could probably drink it. The jar that she spoke negatively to, dirty, mucky, not really clear. And the jar that she kind of left alone, kind of in between. Your words have power, whether you know it or not. Hope she can still use that in the sermon, but I stole her story. But yeah, it was, I was laughing at her when she first told me about it. I'm like, get that. What are you doing? What are you doing? And I come back, I went, oh. Oh, okay. All right. So thank y'all for sharing. So you just jump into the sermon. Just one of the first points I wanted to make was, you don't sleep on me, because, you might not see it now, but it's in me. God put something in me. God put something in me. And even if you can't see it right now, even if it's not showing right now, it's still there, and I still have value, even if you can't see it. People often judge by what's visible, what they can see, what's out there, what you're showing off, what you're flashing. And it's not, as we know, that's not how you should judge, because God works in the shadows. God works in the unseen. God works with those who people overlook, who people doubt. God does some of God's best work in those situations. But too often, especially now, in this age of like social media, in this age of comparison, if you don't got it on the outside, we just assume you don't got it at all. If you're not showing it off on social media, your life must be terrible. If you're not smiling, taking your selfies, people are going to assume you ain't doing nothing. And that's just terrible. That's just really terrible. Social media has done a lot of good, but there's a lot of damage social media does too. because that's not how you should judge people. You know, God works in the unseen. Don't assume just because you don't see something on somebody that they don't have it in them. And we all have been in those situations where, you know, we've got doubted, but we have gifts. You know, we may not recognize our gifts. We may not know how to use our gifts yet. We may be learning more about our gifts. We may be learning more about ourselves, but that doesn't mean they're not there. I brought up David in that story and how when the prophet gets to David's house and Jesse brings out the sons he has judged clearly from the outside. He's brought out all his tall sons, all his strong sons. And he didn't even think, you know, to bring out David because he did ask for your sons. He didn't ask for the good-looking sons. He didn't ask for the sons that, you know, you think fit the profile of a king. He didn't ask for something specific. He said all your sons. And he didn't bring out David. So once again, when stuff like that comes from people close to you, you know, I'm sure it can hurt. But, you know, God sees you. You know, if other people can't see you, got to know that God sees you, and God knows your gifts, and God knows what you have, and God knows what you can do, and God knows all the possibilities on your life because God has been developing you, even if it's been in the dark. You know, once again, if we don't see it, we assume that it's not there. That even goes with how we think and how we, you know, we don't see God working. We sometimes doubt God ourselves. If we don't feel that God is doing it, and we can't see it, we don't feel that God is really doing it. You know, we are grateful for, once again, like the big things God blesses us with. But how grateful are we each and every day that we're just able to just breathe? Just things you're not really paying attention to. But God is, you know, does so much in the area of the unknown that we don't even recognize it. So God has done some good developing in the dark. And once again, you got to recognize this, and you got to understand, you got to own that you have a gift that God has placed inside of you. You got to own that stuff. You got to own and walk with that confidence and know that even if people don't see it, you know it's there, and you have faith that God is still working on it. Even if you feel like it hasn't developed yet, God is still working on you. God is still molding you, and God is still changing things for you so that you can use your gift to the best of its ability. You got to know what you carry, and that's what I use the example of the elephant from, where, you know, the elephant knows, you know, its weight. It knows what it's carrying. It doesn't rush for anybody. It's not going to, you know, move at anybody's pace but its own. That's how you got to walk. You can't be doing things for applause. You can't be trying to rush your gift because you want to show it off. You can't be trying to do things for just attention because then you're using your gift for the wrong reasons. You're not really using your gift to how God wants you to use your gift. You know, if you use your gift and those things come, wonderful, but that's not why you do it. That's not why you're moving the way you do. That's not why you're hoping that God can develop you in a way. You're not doing that because you want that attention, because you want that applause. You're doing it because you're honoring God's call on your life. You're honoring what God has put on you. So you might not see it now, but it's in me. Second point was just my life is my example. My life is my lesson plan. And once again, your life and how you live and how you move and how you talk to people, how you interact with people, how you live, love, and serve is an example that teaches people louder than the words that come out of your mouth. How you live teaches people louder than what you say. So be more about how you live instead of talking. Sometimes, you know, people want words. You don't need to give them the words that they want to hear. You don't need to satisfy anybody's needs to hear you do this. Let your work be an example. Let what you do, how you serve, how you go love, how you talk to people, how you're showing up for people. Let that be an example of what your life is about. If people can, you know, say, you know, I know this person is a good person, not because they tell me it, but because I see it with my own eyes. That's a great thing when people can tell your character from your actions, good or bad. But people can tell. That's how a lot of people do, you know, because people like to talk. People like to say, I do A, B, C, and D. You know, they say it, but, you know, can they show it? Can they show it? Can they give examples of this? Can they show it? Can you show that your life is rooted in God? Can you show that how you move and the way you move is because you have this ultimate faith and trust in God? People are going to question you. Why do you move this way? How do you, why are you leaving this great job that you have? Well, God told me to. God told me it was time to go. God is moving me. Well, why are you leaving? Where are you going? I don't know. But you got to trust that if God is telling you to leave, then God has something better in store for you. And that's how you move. That's how you show people you really trust God. And when you can move out of those areas of comfort when God is telling you to. Because sometimes we work so hard to get comfortable, don't we? We work so hard to get to those areas of comfort in life. And then when we get in those comfortable spaces and places, we feel that we've reached it. We are here. We've reached the pinnacle. And then God says, let's keep going. And you're like, whoa, what have I been working for? I've done all this work to get here, and now you say this is to move? You got to trust that, God's telling you to move. There's more. There's more ahead for you. There's more in store for you. There's something better in store for you. But you got to be rooted in your faith and trust in God to know that those things are going to keep providing for you. Those things are going to keep leading you in the right direction. Those things are going to keep adding to your life, not taking from your life. Those things are just going to help you continue to grow, continue to become a person that you didn't even know you could become. Once again, I said in the sermon, a tree knows where its source of life comes from. That's why those roots keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. You have to be like that tree and know that your journey, your life, everything's going to depend on your faith and trust in God. Are you going to be rooted in that? Because if you're rooted in that, you can grow. Don't get rooted in the wrong things. Because you get rooted in the wrong things, at some point you're going to stop growing because they're not going to be able to keep sustaining you. They're not going to be able to keep pushing you to grow. They're not going to keep helping you grow. At some point, if you're rooted in the wrong things, they're going to wear out, and then you're not going to have anything to take from. And we all know what happens to trees, plants, flowers when there's nothing good in the ground, when they're not rooted to anything good, when there's no life in what they're rooted in. They wither, they pass away. So you got to think about, where is your life showing growth, even when nobody's applauding you, even when nobody's watching, even when nobody's there to go, ooh, ah. Where's your life showing growth? Like the tree, what fruit are you nurturing in your life? Not just to show off like, hey, I got fruit, but to show off that, this is what happens when you trust in God. This is what happens when you have faith in God's plan for you. This is what my life shows because I'm following where God is leading me. Once again, not fruit to show off, but fruit to really show, like, as an example. This is how you're supposed to live. This is how I live, and look what God has done for me. So let your life be your example. Let your life be your lesson plan. Kind of hit on this one already, but watch your words. They carry weight. The words you put out into the atmosphere are seeds. They can be seeds for good or negativity. They shape your reality. Your words can shape someone else's reality. Like we just gave the example with the young girl singing. If God created the world with words, how might your words shape someone else's world today? What have you said today? I don't want nobody feeling guilty. I'm thinking about it myself, like, ooh. Have you spoken negatively over yourself today? Well, stop. Hope everybody goes home and looks in the mirror and say something good about yourself before you go to bed. Stop looking in the mirror and noticing your flaws before you notice something good about yourself. What might God be inviting you to declare about yourself on today? I assure you it's nothing negative. I assure you it's nothing negative. So watch your words. Watch how you speak. Watch what comes out your mouth. Because once again, we don't look at words all the time like they have power. Because if we did, we wouldn't speak some of the things that we do. We wouldn't always be speaking the way we do. If we recognize each and every day our words have power, you might be a little more cautious with what you say. Like, what if we spoke and things like immediately happened when we spoke? How would that change you? You wouldn't just be opening your mouth for anything. Be a little more careful with what you say. So act like that. Just act like you know your words have serious power. And watch how things change for you. So yeah, we got, you might not see it, but it's in me. Your life is your lesson plan. Watch your words, and know your faith journey, your faith walk isn't just for show, it's for God. It's to honor God. It's to glorify God. And that's where we're talking about love. Love isn't just loud. Love is a lived thing. You got to live it out. Faith isn't just speaking these fantasy things. Faith is action. Your love and faith should be those things. People should be able to know you're a loving, caring person, not because, once again, that you're saying these things. I love you, I care about you, but I'm showing these things. I'm showing that I believe in, the love that Jesus spread. I'm loving beyond the limits of my prejudices. And that's why we say those things. We're trying to, that's an action thing. Loving beyond the limits of your prejudices. That's an action thing. Love's an action. People should be able to see what your love is, how your love shows up in the world, and who you're showing that love to. Once again, I said sometimes we only show that love when the situation is right, when we feel comfortable, when we feel like showing it. You ever not feel like loving somebody or showing love? You ever just wake up and feel like, I want to be mean today? How would it look on those days to be like, I want to be mean, but I'm still going to show some love today? Despite how I'm feeling, I'm going to show some love today. Despite how I want to act, I'm going to do the opposite of that. Despite my life not being all together right now, I can still show some love. And that's what it really, that's where it really gets in. Can you show love when there's no love in your life? When things aren't going right for you, when your life is feeling like a mess, when you feel like nothing's going right for you and things just can't get it together, can you show up and show love? Can you say in those moments, I still have faith in God when things are terrible for you? When things don't make sense. Things don't go the way you want them to. Because everybody's been that moment when things aren't doing right, and you just it's just regular. You start to doubt God. You start to doubt, does God care about me? Does God love me still? Is your faith only based on the good things that are happening in your life? Is that love only based on when things are good? And once again, it's real. It's not here to make you feel guilty, but these are natural feelings that we have, It's going to be tough to say you can show love. I want to love the unseen person right now when I don't feel seen. I have faith in God even though I feel like there's nothing to have faith about. Nothing in my life's going right, so why would I want to have faith in God right now? That's when people, you don't know how much you affect others, once again, when people can see you doing those good things in light of the bad in your life. When people can see you loving, when they know your life is in shambles. When people know that you walk out your door having faith in God, even though they can see your situation and go like, wow, how's that person smiling right now? How's that person living right now? So that's what, your faith, it ain't about a show. It's for glory, because you can't always put on a show. You ain't always got the time to put on a show. Once again, you can't be living for people. You got to live for yourself. You got to live to honor God. You cannot live for people. So once again, love isn't loud. It's lived, and faith isn't just a fantasy realm. It's your actions. It's your actions. So, if you think about it, just get those thoughts and you're like, if I'm thinking about I'm living it, who in my community, who in my life could be helped by seeing my faith and my love, even when things aren't great? Or am I just going to show them that, negative attitude? Who in your life or community needs to see you loving despite it all, having faith despite it all? Those are just things to think about, because once again, you never know. Say it several times, you never know who's looking at you. You never know who's watching you. You never know who you're an example for. You never know who's talking about you. Like, I saw this person make it through, so that gave me the strength to know I can make it through. Because others have done that for us. We've seen some people at their worst moments, but they keep pushing, they keep going. So know your faith. Your faith ain't for show. It's for glory. And then, your integrity is your superpower. Your integrity isn't something that's going to be flashy. It isn't something that's people are going to just talk about. How often do you see someone, or often you hear someone talk about, oh, that person has a lot of integrity? That's not something we talk about a lot. But just because it's not talked about, just because it's not in the forefront of what people talk about, doesn't mean it's not foundational in your life. Once again, just, when people come to New York, tourists come see the tall buildings, Empire State Building, all the buildings downtown. They're so impressed, taking pictures up. Nobody doing this. Oh, look at that foundation. Beautiful foundation. Strong foundation. Nobody taking pictures of that. The foundations of your life don't always get the attention that the things that show up on the outside get. But the foundation, like the integrity in your life, or I should say the integrity like the foundation in your life, hold up everything else. They hold up everything else. So even when nobody sees it, what's your integrity like? How are you living behind those closed doors? Are your words and your actions matching up? Because you can do all that, but if your integrity ain't there, it's going to be hard to, if your integrity there, nobody's going to listen to your words. Nobody's going to care about your demeanor. Your love ain't going to be real. Your faith ain't going to be real. If your integrity as a human being isn't showing up how it needs to show up. So know that your integrity is a superpower, and it's how people, aren't going to talk about you. Aren't going to talk about your integrity, but it's going to be people can see your integrity by what's going on the outside. So what is something that, something to think about, what is something that people don't see, but it's something that you might be thinking God may be calling to strengthen this, because this is a foundation in my life. What do I need to focus on privately to make sure that's strong, just to hold up my life in general? What areas of life do I need to strengthen just to make sure I'm good? So before you take care of anybody else, before you go live, love, and serve, you got to be making sure you're good. Making sure you're taking care of yourself. So yeah, just hitting those points, once again, you may not see it now, but it's in me. Your life is a lesson plan and an example. Your words carry weight, so watch them. Your faith walk ain't for show, it's for glory, and your integrity is your superpower. And these are reasons that people should not sleep on you, because you got a lot going on inside of you, a lot that God has placed there. Some people are at the point where they know what God has placed in them and they're using it. Some people are at the point where they're still cultivating it. Some people are at the point where they don't know it exists, but that's not reason enough for you to sleep on people. See the best in people just like you want people to see the best in you. Don't judge people on the outside, just because they don't got it all going on. They're not showing off. They're not showing off what God has blessed them with. They're not using their gift how you think they should. Doesn't mean they don't got it going on the inside. Don't go around judging like that. Because once again, we've all, you use an example, when you were younger, you've been slept on. So remember how you felt when that happened. Remember when you felt like you had a lot to contribute, a lot to give to a certain situation, and you were overlooked. You don't want that repeated, because then the cycle just continues. Break that cycle. You never know what listening to people might do for that person or for you. Because once again, we don't know everything. We like to think we know everything sometimes, but we don't know everything. You learn something new every day. Every day. If you don't learn something new, there's something new to learn every day. So any thoughts, any questions? Yeah, come on.
So there's this woman on my floor, and she's on crack.
Okay.
And she's very disturbing. She's up like 2, 3 in the morning outside, screaming and yelling and cursing, or they're fighting. And so when she sees me, but she's very polite. When she sees me, she'll say hi to me. But I'm angry because she's always keeping me up at night. So sometimes I would say hi, but I wasn't always nice to her. I was actually mean to her. Because she would ask me questions. I would say hi, but she would ask me questions, and I wouldn't answer her because of her behavior. And then about, say, 2, 3 months ago, I started saying, you know what, I can't do that. So I actually started answering her, and I started talking to her. She came up to me, she said, she actually said to me, what did I do to you? And that was an eye-opener for me. And I said, well, you didn't do anything to me, but you can stop the noise because I can't sleep at night and I have to get up and go to work in the morning. So she said, I promise I'll stop. So she didn't stop, but she would say to me, I'm trying. I said, yeah, you're trying. And after Sunday, when I got home Sunday, after listening to your sermon, I came in and she was there. So she said, hi. I said, hi. She said, I'm doing better. I said, you're doing much better. So she said, you've been to church? You just came from church? I said, yes. She said, good. I said, okay, have a great day. When I got in my house, I was so convicted because I said, how is it that I can actually go to church and serve God and then treat this woman the way I've been treating her just because she's different from me? And so my heart was a little heavy because that's not who I am. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and there's beauty in that story because, once again, we're all human beings. We all have those thoughts. If you can't sleep, what's going to happen? Ever since you was a baby, if you ain't going to sleep, you're going to be cranky. You're going to be irritable. So it's easier in those moments to not answer her. It's easier in those moments when she talks to you to ignore her. It takes strength and courage to do the opposite, what you've started doing. And whether the effect was immediate or not, you saw the difference in when you just talked to her and when you ignored her. And you could see, the change in, doing what the carpenter would do in those situations. Showing a little bit of love instead of the opposite. Because once again, it's easy to be like, you kept me up all night. I don't want to talk to you right now. That's easy. It's not easy being like, hey, you know what? How are you? What's going on over there? Having a conversation. She might not got talked to for 3 weeks. You don't know that. You don't know what your kindness in that moment did for her. But it did enough for her to seemingly want to try to address the issue. To recognize, like, okay, this woman wasn't talking to me, now she is. What was the reason for that? What was the switch? What did I do? So I applaud you in that moment because, you could have easily just kept the attitude. Once again, that's easy to do. How easy is it to be mean to somebody that you already don't like? That takes nothing. It's hard in those moments to show love. It's hard in those moments to do what the carpenter did, because that woman's part of the unseen people. And it's not easy to show love. So when you're hearing about this in church, don't feel guilty, but feel like talk to this. I can do better in some areas. Because we're all growing. Once again, nobody here's got it all together. Not one person. They can act like it. People act like it. But we're all growing. We're ever evolving. We're all trying to be better. We're all learning things. We're all trying to make better decisions. So once again, I applaud you for recognizing in those moments what you were doing and then changing it up. Because you never know what that effect has on her. Once again, even her, like you said, even her coming to you, what can I do? What can I do to make it better? Might not just, like you said, didn't stop right away, but the fact, that had a conversation, you never know where that can go. So I applaud you. Great, great job, So don't feel bad because you did something any normal human being would do. But you recognize it and you try to correct it and you try to be better. You just got to recognize where you mess up. You recognize your faults. You recognize where you fall short. Give yourself grace in those moments. You don't beat yourself up. You give yourself, hey, I didn't do that. That's something I shouldn't have done. Next time, I'm do better. And you did. So, I really applaud that. That was really good. That's an example of life. Every situation where you're supposed to love isn't going to be easy. We don't say what we say every Sunday. Our identity statement say, yeah, and this is easy. Love me beyond the limits of our prejudices. That's easy. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. But you face that challenge and you do it regardless. It's not going to be easy every time. It's not going to be something you just do right like that. But, you recognize, once again, where you fall short. You recognize where you mess up. You recognize where you could do better. And you give yourself grace and you change up stuff and you try to be better. You try to do better. So that's what it's really there. That's what's really about. Any other questions? Any other questions? Thoughts? Before I have some kind of personal reflections for the group or people in general. But yeah, I just want, as we, get ready to leave and stuff, I just want you to really think about yourself and really think about an area where you've been doubting what God may have put in you. Where you've been doubting what God put in you. And then I want you to, maybe you think it, maybe you write it, maybe you type it down, put in your notes. When you think about one area that you've been doubting what God put in you, and then I want you to write or think about an affirmation that speaks against that doubt. And do this in the mirror when you get home. If you told yourself you're not good enough today, go home and say the opposite to yourself. If you know that today you spoke some negative words about yourself today, go home and say the opposite about yourself. And watch how you feel. If you told yourself, I'm not good enough, go in the mirror, tell yourself, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I am beloved of God. God's Spirit rests on me. And get used to doing that stuff. When you talk about it about yourself, recognize it. Flip the script there. Stop, cut yourself off. Don't beat yourself up in those moments. Because, you shouldn't be sleeping on yourself. Other people should sleep on you. They can't sleep on you. They can't sleep on you. It's going to happen. But you shouldn't be sleeping on yourself. Know who you are and whose you are, and know what God put inside of you, and believe in it and trust in it and have faith in it. You're not too young. You're not too old. Not too late. Not too forgotten. You are chosen. You are called. You are enough. You are worthy. Try those things. Try believing those things. Don't let people sleep on you, and don't sleep on yourself. All right? All right. Well, any other questions, thoughts? Well, y'all make this easy. All right. Well, let's go ahead and pray out there. Gracious God, we are here just grateful for the mere fact that you see us, God, that you don't sleep on us, God, that you see our potential even when we don't see it, God, that you can see things that other people don't see within us, God, that you never doubt us, that you never overlook us, that you don't forget about us, God, that you know all the possibilities that we have on our lives, God. So help us on this evening to see ourselves as you see us, God, that we see ourselves with all the life and possibility that you see us with, God, that we love a little more, God, on today, that we walk out here with courage, God, to speak differently, God, to walk differently, God, to act differently, God, whether it be through our love, our words, our integrity, our courage, any of those things, God. Just let us do those things knowing that you have put inside of us something special. Each and every one of us have a gift, God, and help us use that gift to the best of our abilities, God. Help us even go beyond what we think is possible, God, and show us more, God. Help us not stay in our comfort zones, God. Help us continue to grow, God. We know we can't grow if we stay still, God, so help us all to always keep moving and always keep striving to get better, God. Just continue just to see us, God, and we will continue to honor you in each and every way that we can, God. Even if no one else sees us, God, we know that you have your eye on us, God, and we are grateful and thankful for that thought. So we love you and we thank you. We will walk out this place honoring you today by seeing ourselves, God. So it's in your name we pray, and we say amen. 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 All right, good evening, everybody. Go enjoy the rest of your nights.